Cabin Sports Radio.
Here comes the siren. I want to go higher. Oh, my goodness. He's doing a drive. Deep left field. No doubt about it. Posey will defend. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
Oh, baby, for sure.
Cabin Sports Radio starts now.
Cabin Sports Radio coming to you once again on another Monday night on the Cabin Radio airwaves. Lecter and Unbreakable Mike Gibbons with you. Lots to talk about this week. It was an eventful week we had, and we'll talk about all this. But just to give you a little preview, we had Tom Brady getting white girl wasted.
Oh yeah,
we'll talk about that. A little bit of CFL news. We haven't talked any CFL in a while, but some I'm not going to say exciting, but interesting stuff.
Developments,
if you will. Yes. We haven't talked about the Edmonton Football Club in a while, but things are progressing. They will not be the Edmonton Evolution. That is not an option, apparently. But they do have some names that they have listed off as possible contenders, and they're looking for fan votes to find out what will be the next name of the EE Football Club. That, and we'll check in on the NHL. We're about 15 games in, give or take, depending on whether or not your team has been quarantined or not and missed any games. But about 15 games in, so we'll do a little look around the league to see how things are looking and where we thought, if we are where we thought we'd be. Mike, how you doing?
Good, very good. It was a good weekend. So UFC event 258.
Yes.
On Saturday, did get the pay-per-view to watch that. Usman versus Burns.
Okay.
My friend had me buying into the Burns hype. They used to train together. They sparred together. So, some people thinking that he might have the inside track on Usman. And there was an early scare in the first round for Usman. Burns was able to get him on the ground with a good hook. But second round, Usman, the champ, took over. It was one of the first times after a fight I've seen real emotion, and it was because it was setting in is like I just had to beat my friend up.
Oh yeah,
and it really sucked.
Yeah.
You could they're both crying. They're both hugging. You could see it in Usman's face. Yeah, obviously thrilled with the result, defending the title.
Right,
but he looked really upset over the decision. And I think he called out GSP afterwards, like all the champs do, right?
It's what you do. It's a rite of passage.
Yeah. But it was a fun night. It was a fun night. Some hockey as well.
Well, I've been seeing things now that that Usman, a lot of people are starting to throw out that GOAT with a question mark.
Yeah. Well, so he has now the longest fight winning streak for a welterweight, I believe, surpassed GSP's, which I believe was 12 consecutive wins in that division. So he hit 13 with his win over Burns the other night. But then, and we've talked about this quite a bit. It usually comes down to title defenses, right?
Right.
And that's why it even feels almost disrespectful in a way when you start throwing, Khabib into the conversation, because in terms of title defenses, there are two guys that are clear cut above the rest. And that's John Jones, who might be making his move to heavyweights and fighting soon.
Yeah.
And then GSP, of course.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Well, it'll be interesting to follow that. But I mean, there it is. Yeah, the challenge has been thrown out. Now George St. Pierre just has to decide, do I want to come out of retirement or not? Because I got some fights lined up.
Yeah.
If I do decide that is the route I want to go. I still hope he doesn't.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, if he does, I will be paying to watch that fight.
Yeah.
And Dana White knows that.
Yes, he does.
So without further ado, let's get into it and take a look at some CSR headlines.
Well, Well, Lecter, we're about a quarter of the way into the new abbreviated NHL season. Most teams by this point, depending on if they've had to miss time due to COVID-19, have hit around the 15 games played mark, and in a condensed 56-game season, that's 25%, 26% if we're rounding up of the way through the season. So usually a pretty good time to take stock where teams are, where they were projected to be. It's usually this time of year over the course of a regular season, like once you start getting into even mid-December, we'll have an idea of where teams are.
Yeah.
And for the most part, those positions hold unless a team falls off a cliff or goes on a really good run to finish the season.
Yeah.
You'll see some moving around here and there, but not huge strides or losses taken. So it's a good time to have a little check-in on where the league is so far. So I think maybe we'll get started with some of the biggest surprises. When you look at the start of this season, what jumps out to you for some of the early surprises in the NHL?
So I guess we've talked mostly on this show about the North Division because, that's the Canadian teams. That's the teams we care about. So we may as well start there. I guess biggest surprise off the top for me is actually how bad the Ottawa Senators are.
Yeah.
And not even in terms of record. I feel like coming into this season, we knew that they were going to finish last in the division. If they finished, even just second last, that would have been either an amazing feat for them or a just complete train wreck of a season for either the Canucks, the Oilers, the Flames, the Jets, someone else. If it was the Leafs or the Habs, that would have been, just an absolute debacle of a season.
Yeah.
So, it's not surprising that they are in the basement of the North Division, but it's just surprising how badly they've been getting pummeled for the most part. Now they just came off a victory against the Winnipeg Jets, and I think that they only have three now, right? They beat the Jets, the Habs, and the Leafs. So they've beaten the two top teams.
Yep.
So that either shows that the two top teams in the North Division are human, or it shows that the Ottawa Senators, when they play well, can compete with any team in this division. But the thing that just blows me away is just they've been getting, aside from those games and like a very tiny handful of other games where they've been competitive, I think they've been on average been beaten by like 4 goals. Every game. And the result, I haven't watched a lot of Sens games from start to finish, but you see in the scores and the highlights, it's just every night it's like 5-1, 6-1, 7-1. And you're just like, I fully expected you to, even Ottawa Senators fans fully expected them to lose more than they won this year.
Right.
But I'm just, I've been a little bit blown away by just how they've been getting blown out game after game.
Came out of the gate fairly strong, like you said, got a win over the first place team, who we'll get to a little bit later, in the Toronto Maple Leafs. Since then, 3 wins, 12 losses, 1 overtime loss on the season, 64 goals allowed in 16 games, which works out exactly to 4 goals a game. They had that 8-1 shellacking, I think, or was it 8-3 against the Canucks. You'll remember that game where McDavid had 5 points and he didn't even lead his team in scoring because Leon Draisaitl had 6 points. That was in an 8-5 shellacking at the hands of the Oilers. So in a condensed season, when you're seeing the same 6 teams for the entire calendar, a lot of teams are treating this as a bit of a reset game. It's like, all right, we're in a bit of a slump here. That's okay. We got the Ottawa Senators up next, and we're going to score in bunches. I had them under our next subheading. I had them, and it is a surprise. I also had them as one of my biggest disappointments. Question mark.
Right.
Because we expected them to be closer to the basement than to the ceiling.
Yes.
But, with some acquisitions, Dadonov, you wondered how Stützle would play on the big stage. Another year of development for Shabbat, bringing in Matt Murray.
And some good, just gritty depth, too. Like, you just
already
felt
got
like
Tkachuk. but they have disappointed thus far. A minus 30 through 16 games played is not going to get it done for you at any level. So, yes, I would agree with you. It has been one of the big surprises so far. And I agree with you. It feels like we're talking a lot more about the North Division because, of course, we see a lot of it here. But this division isn't dealing with a lot of the issues that the three American ones are, the East, the South, and the West, with all of the issues related to COVID-19. Under my big surprises, I actually did have the North Division, and I know I'm being really broad here, but I'll explain to you right now. I'm looking at the top 10 goals scorers in the NHL right now. 8 of them are from the North Division.
Oh, wow.
Including the leader. You've got Austin Matthews, Tyler Toffoli, Brock Besser, Nikolai Ehlers are your top 4, all on Canadian teams.
Wow.
Then you got Josh Anderson, Connor McDavid, Johnny Gaudreau, and Leon Draisaitl. The only other American, first of all, he is American, but American-based player is Joe Pavelski, which is another big surprise.
Wow, yeah.
With 9 goals on the season. So it feels like we're seeing a lot more of the North Division because, just of the games that are televised here, but they are holding their weight and thus far have surprised very nicely. And we're seeing a lot of good quality hockey north of the border.
Yeah, I think looking, just taking a quick glance at the rest of the standings, it's been a weird year. That's the understatement of the year so far. But it almost feels like we've just been, I haven't paid attention to the rest of the league.
Right.
I've only really paid attention to the North Division.
Do you have a fantasy team?
Yeah, Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, and probably Leon Draisaitl on the top line.
Yeah.
And then, I don't.
No. Okay.
Hockey team.
The only reason I ask is because, when I'm setting my roster, half of my team's on the IR right now.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people are dealing with this because there are so many people on the COVID-19 protocol list.
Right.
And games being postponed left and right. I don't think we've had a single postponement in the North Division this year, but most other teams in the 3 American divisions are dealing with this, and it's had an impact on some of those stats. So that's why I think we're seeing the early results in the North Division, and thankfully uninterrupted play so far.
Yeah, I guess looking around, just standings wise, it is strange to see the Nashville Predators in second last in the Central Division, 6-9. I would assume they're going to turn things around, but I mean, a minus 16 goal differential. I think they got blown out by the Lightning a couple games ago. I mean, the Lightning are a good team; they're defending Stanley Cup champions. There's no shame in losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning, but the Nashville Predators are not that far removed from being, especially in terms of their core, they're still pretty much intact from being a Stanley Cup finalist. And here they are, with just 2 more wins than the lowly Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, if you're closer in the standings to the Red Wings than, say, the Hurricanes, Panthers, and Lightning, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, and it just, maybe this is a symptom of the fact that similar to the Ottawa Senators, you don't have that different dynamic in a regular NHL season where you are traveling and, there are different factors at play, such as just fatigue, general, different things coming into play, playing a home and home, or 2 games in a row, back-to-back games when in different cities, jet lag, that sort of thing. You don't have those factors this year, really. So, yeah, maybe that's just something that it's just revealing some things about some teams, perhaps. Also seeing the Florida Panthers in second place in the Central Division, an 8-2-2 start. I'd call that a surprise. I mean, they were, for the better part of the year last year, if memory serves me correctly, they were a playoff team and then kind of slipped out at the end.
In the Atlantic Division, sort of fell out of the picture when it come time for playoffs, usually in a pretty stacked Atlantic Division, when you've got the Bruins, the Lightning, and the Maple Leafs. They usually occupy the top 3 spots. And can you slide into one of the wild card? Well, the Metropolitan Division is historically pretty strong too,
right?
With the Penguins, Capitals, Flyers, Rangers. Islanders, Hurricanes. So, I think usually on the outside looking in, a good start to them. You mentioned the Predators. Outside of the aforementioned Red Wings and Senators, they've got the worst plus-minus in the entire NHL at minus 16. Sort of speaking of the old Metropolitan Division, the new East Division, I look at the Rangers a little bit as a bit of an early disappointment.
Yeah.
Just, some excitement heading into the offseason, a year that they could build off of their first full year with Panarin in the fold. You get the first overall draft pick in Lafreniere, who
took him a while to get going.
Has one goal. I remember when he scored it a couple weeks ago.
It was a good one. It was a game winner.
It was a really nice goal. But even on the rookie scoring leading list, nowhere to be seen. So a bit of probably a slow start by his standards. They of course had all the controversy around Tony DeAngelo. So still very much figuring things out in the Big Apple, but they'll probably turn things around. Not too bad at -3, but a pretty pedestrian start to the year, I'd say.
Yeah, and just sticking with that East Division, two more things that kind of stand out to me. Not that I expected them to have a bad start to the year by any means, but it is kind of interesting to see the Boston Bruins in their first year without longtime captain Zdeno Chara.
Yep.
Not missing a beat.
Yeah.
Seemingly not really missing the big guy at all. They're 10-2-2.
Yep.
They look like the Boston Bruins of old, what we've come to expect year after year in the past 10 years. That pretty much looks like the Bruins this year. They have not missed a beat. So, I thought there might be a bit of a growing pain type of situation, and just that different dynamic it creates when you suddenly remove the most feared individual in the entire league. You thought that might change the dynamic a bit and might be something they would have to get used to. But nope, the Bruins are golden. They don't have anything to worry about, seemingly. And on the other end of the spectrum, the Buffalo Sabres.
There they are.
Despite having quite a bit of excitement coming into this year. Picking up Taylor Hall, that being a big offseason signing for them. And traditionally in the last few years, we've seen the Buffalo Sabres get off to a really hot start and then peter out over the course of the season after about the midway point. Now we see them getting off to a very slow start. Now, they've only played 10 games as opposed to, some other teams. The Bruins have played 14. Most other teams in the East Division have played 13. The Devils have only played 9. So the Sabres, kind of a victim of that a little bit, the fact that they've only played 10 games so far. But 4-4-2, 30 goals for, 32 goals against, bit of a shaky start. And I don't know. That's a tough division. And if you didn't get off to a good start to kind of set yourself up well for the last half of this shortened season, I don't really see a team like Buffalo turning it around suddenly.
No, and then even looking at the teams sort of in the middle of the pack right now between the Capitals and Penguins, they can flip a switch, come closer to playoff time, and they'll figure things out. Yeah, definitely surprising. So when do we start hearing stories about Jack Eichel and his discontent in Buffalo? You know those stories will start to surface. I completely agree with the Boston Bruins, though, especially missing David Pastrnak at the start of the season. There was a lot of concern around the team a couple weeks leading up to the season because half their roster was on the COVID-19 protocol list. They had guys not making training camp. And then you've also got the added departure of Torrey Krug. So you're one and two defensemen out the door. They swung out on some of the big free agents. Pietrangelo was linked to the Bruins over the offseason. He, of course, went to Vegas. So no really marquee signings in the offseason. So I think everyone sort of expected them to take at least a little bit of a step back, and they haven't at all. 10-2 out of the gate. One of the best plus minuses in the entire league at plus 12. And they're looking as sharp as ever.
The only one shaking off a little bit of rust in a Bruins uniform is apparently Tuukka Rask, who's pulling himself in the middle of tied games.
Yes, a really, really funny moment last week. His team up 2-1, and he made it all the way to the bench. It was like that J.R. Smith. I don't know if you recall from the finals, 2018, I think it was, when the Cavs ended up getting swept. Gets an offensive rebound rate at the hoop with Durant on him. decides, I'm not going to get a layup.
Right.
Let's dribble it out. And then, of course, you got that infamous LeBron meme of him looking at him going, dude,
what?
You know, and he denied it. You know, he did not know the score of that game at the time. And clearly last week, Tuukka Rask had no clue.
Yeah.
That I would have loved, I'd love to hear some sound bites out of that. Just, his teammates frantically screaming at him. Probably not in nice terms either. Please get back in net. Thankfully, he avoided the worst and didn't get scored on. That would have been pretty bad.
Yeah.
And there's another funny clip between it was Brad Marchand and I think Mika Zibanejad when they played the Rangers and Bruins last week. I don't know about you.
I don't think I saw this.
Are you a superstitious guy at all? Like when it comes to hockey?
Well, I mean, like routine.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe that, in bad luck or, well, I mean, there is bad luck, but no, not overly superstitious.
So one of the big ones I've seen, and I remember seeing Sagan do this in the Stanley Cup playoffs last year, they have to be the last one off the ice.
Right, yes.
So the Zamboni, by this point, we're like, guys, get off the ice. It was Brad Marchand and Zibanejad, and they were both at opposite ends of the rink, just staring at each other.
Oh my God.
Because they both refused to get off the ice. And it went on for about 12 minutes where they just weren't moving, were staring each other down and refused to leave the ice. At this point, the Zambonis are literally going around them because it was, they were getting ready to play.
Good God.
Zibanejad ended up winning because Marchand, to my surprise, was the first one to leave the rink. But
the Rangers, we need this more.
Yeah,
we're gonna really commit to this superstitious angle.
Yeah.
I think that you just need a delay of game penalty.
Yeah,
just have them both start in the box.
Seriously,
just offsetting minors.
That was it went on for quite some time, but superstitious or not, the Bruins are off to a really good start. The last one I'll mention, anyways, and again, I keep coming back to the North Division.
Yes,
we did touch on them having a promising start to the year, the Montreal Canadiens, and I'll be a little more specific. The key off-season acquisitions: Tyler Toffoli, 1 goal behind Austin Matthews for the league lead at 10. Josh Anderson right behind him at 9.
Yeah,
and Suzuki's coming into his own. We said last year, and it came to fruition, that if there's any goaltender in the league that can steal you some games, it's Carey Price.
Yeah.
And we saw it in the abbreviated play-in round against the Pittsburgh Penguins when they beat them in 4. They're getting really good goaltending from Jake Allen, another offseason acquisition, and Carey Price, and they're getting the scoring touch. I think my concern about them was when the scoring does sort of fall off a little bit.
Right.
But early on, anyways, these early acquisitions are paying for them.
It doesn't happen so often when, two of your key offseason acquisitions, Josh Anderson in the trade through Max Domi, which, that was at the time, Max Domi is a popular guy in Montreal, very well liked by the fans. And, there's obvious talent there. And so Josh Anderson, a bit more of an unknown coming from Columbus. We just don't get to see a lot of Columbus Blue Jackets games. So, that being the case, you could see the size, you could see the stats, and it was like, okay, well, there's clearly something here. And just knowing the brand of hockey that he played, a much more gritty, in-your-face style, which was exactly what the Montreal Canadiens needed to add up front. He has been incredible for them.
Yeah.
He has been so good. And then Tyler Toffoli, who was brought over by the Vancouver Canucks at the trade deadline last year as a bit of a gamble. He had really fallen off in LA after being a big part of their Stanley Cup winning teams as I think pretty much a rookie in maybe 2014. But one of their younger players who was a major up and comer at that time had his production really tailed off, and so then Vancouver took a chance on him, and he showed kind of reignited his game a little bit. And obviously the Montreal Canadiens just hoping that was going to continue, and I don't think you could have expected that it would continue to this degree, but he has fit in so incredibly well. And I mean, you take a look at the rest of the league, and just with the most recent big trade, the Patrick Laine, Pierre-Luc Dubois trade between Columbus and Winnipeg, and you see how it can kind of go the other way in the early returns, where Patrick Laine, I think in like 6 games with Columbus so far, only has 2 goals.
Yeah,
He's
both in one game. I think the first game maybe.
Yeah.
Got benched.
Got in a fight the other night, which, I mean, seemed to get a good response from the bench, but I don't know. I don't know if you want to see that.
No,
like, especially
you want that guy putting pucks in the back of the net.
Yeah, like that's not why we traded for him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was talking about this with Jesse this morning, actually. I was just saying, if I was Columbus's GM and, and I got any inkling that John Tortorella and the way he has handled Patrick Laine so far, like you just mentioned, benched for an entire period in one game last week. If that is prompting him, or if like anything Torts is saying has prompted him to like just out of nowhere drop the gloves in a game against Chicago, like I think I'd be having a word with John Tortorella of like, we're here. We brought him to score hopefully 50 goals. Yeah. He's not here to get knocked silly in a fight. Like we got other guys for that.
Yeah.
We don't want Patrick Laine doing that. And then Pierre-Luc Dubois, hasn't looked bad in his first couple games with the Jets, but so far has not put up a point on the board in his 2 games. So, bit of a slow start for both of those guys in their new homes. And that really drives home the point with the Montreal Canadiens and just how much of an immediate, impressive impact that Josh Anderson and Tyler Toffoli have made there. Yeah.
Toronto probably happy with some of their offseason acquisitions. Wayne Simmons, before he went down with that gut-wrenching wrist injury, out 6 weeks, probably another 5 now, was filling the back of the net. And Jumbo Joe makes his return to the lineup tonight, I think. So
that should be good to see,
Yeah. So some teams happy with the early return. Some teams will see if maybe it's more of a longer-term payout. So I thought I would invite another session, and this is called Fact or Fiction. So taking a look at the current stats across the National Hockey League, Austin Matthews leads all goal scorers with 11 goals through his team's first 15 games. So I ask this to you, fact or fiction? Does Austin Matthews get his first Rocket Richard this year?
It's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. He looks great. I don't know if you saw, I posted on my Facebook the other day an article I came across. As a unabashed Leafs fan, I love to highlight these ridiculous claims you see from the Toronto media because there's rarely a shortage of them. This was the most egregious one I've seen so far this year. The title was, "Is Austin Matthews the greatest Toronto Maple Leaf of all time?"
Yeah.
Apparently, this was a conversation that someone had on TSN 690. I guess probably the last remaining TSN radio station left in the country. Yeah. We won't get into that again.
We touched on it last week.
But apparently, this was decided it would be a good topic of conversation for some show content.
Ratings must be down. You got to spark the conversation somehow.
It's certainly going to generate a response.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily the response you're looking for. I had to share that because I just had a laugh. But the thing is, skill-wise, he very well might be the most skilled,
talented,
the most talented Toronto Maple Leaf of all time. I'm not shy to put that out there yet because talent doesn't necessarily equal greatness.
No.
So that's kind of, and I know I'm not really answering your question right now, but
I'm enjoying this. Whenever you and the Wheel post anything sports related, it piques my interest because I know that it's going to be funny. And I usually agree with it.
Right.
So whenever I saw the heading and I saw who shared it, I was like, this should be good. Yeah. And of course and then I have to read it. So
well, exactly. And I'm always interested in seeing people's responses to the Toronto media's ridiculous just stuff they throw out there and see what sticks. So this one struck me as particularly funny. I mean, like, first of all, he's not even the greatest Maple Leaf in recent history, which is Matt Sundin. There's no argument there.
Put it all together.
Exactly.
The size, the skill, the speed, the strength,
the leadership.
You name it. Oh, leadership, 100%.
Yeah. And just the maturity.
Yep.
The class off the ice. There was never any worry that Matt Sundin might get himself into trouble off the ice. Like pure class act all the way. And Austin Matthews is, less than 2 years removed from mooning a poor security guard.
Yeah.
So, there's potentially still some growth to be made there. And that, you might want to excuse it and say that, that has nothing to do with his hockey playing ability. And you know what? Fair enough. It doesn't have anything to do with his hockey talent. But in terms of greatness, that word, it encapsulates all of those things. And if you are assuming that Austin Matthews is going to be the next captain, if John Tavares either in the future decides to step aside or maybe, moves on to a different team at the end of his contract or gets traded or retires, whatever happens, assuming that Austin Matthews is the next captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, that is, you need to get to that level of maturity. And quite frankly, that's the only reason in my mind that he's not the captain right now.
Agreed.
Is because he clearly demonstrated that he was not there yet. Talent-wise, yeah, like you say, he might already be the greatest Toronto Maple Leaf of all time because the talent is undeniable.
100%.
You watch him on the ice, he's got, arguably the best shot in the NHL, save for maybe a Patrick Laine and Alex Ovechkin.
Maybe Pasternak.
Yeah, a few players like that.
I think if we're talking just release, though, he might already be at the top.
It's so quick.
His snapshot is unparalleled.
Yeah.
His hands, and he packages it all with the size as well. It just, when you watch Toronto Maple Leafs games, the puck just has a way of finding, and maybe that's the case for really good players. Yeah. They always end up on number 34 and number 16 stick. It always happens. They're getting a lot more minutes together now with Marner on the top line. Joe Thornton will be reinserted into the top line tonight as well. He's surprisingly looked really good with the two speedsters. And now that teams, of course, as they should be, obviously he's going to be at the top of every scouting report. Teams are honing in on Matthews a little bit more, and he's now returned the favor to Mitch Marner in the past couple games, who himself is right towards the top of the Art Ross trophy race. So in an abbreviated season, when you're playing against the likes of Ottawa, 6 more times probably. Right. You're going to get Vancouvers, you're going to get the Winnipegs and the Calgarys. This probably is his best shot at it. He's had some really promising seasons to date, a couple 40-goal years. In his rookie year in 2016 was the first one. He's not going to put up 50, obviously, in an abbreviated season. 40 is probably also maybe out of the question. But I do think this is his best chance to get a Rocket Richard trophy. So I will say this is the year. I think it happens this year.
Well, and I'm just looking down the list now, and a little name Alex Ovechkin is nowhere to be seen. So without Alex, there he is, number 50.
Number 50. How many goals?
5 goals.
5 goals. Okay.
He's only played 9 games.
Pasternak, of course, has missed quite a bit of time too. Yeah. He's only recently come back into the lineup.
He's got 5 and 7. So as far as pace goes, like David Pasternak is doing what David Pasternak does. Yeah. But I think you're right. I think this very well could be the year. He looks like he is absolutely at the top of his game. Yep. This is, I think, the best version of Austin Matthews we have ever seen. He looks like he has upped the compete level as well. Like in his first few years, you could kind of
take
criticize
shifts off.
Yeah, exactly. And that is one of the toughest things for a young player is to learn how to be consistent, not just from game to game, but from shift to shift. Yeah. Bring it every shift. And Austin Matthews, I think now at age 23 has found that gear. Yeah. And which is very, very scary for the rest of the league. Is he the greatest Toronto Maple Leaf of all time as of right now? No. Is he the most skilled Toronto Maple Leaf of all time? Very possibly. Yep. Is he going to win a Rocket Richard trophy this year? I think yes.
I think if there are 2 people, and this is a decent segue, I think, into our next question. 2 people who might have something to say for that, of course, play in the Alberta capital. Do you think that someone other than an Edmonton Oiler will win the Art Ross trophy this year?
Can't happen.
No.
We're not going to see it in our, the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Right.
It's going to be one of those two.
Yeah.
Assuming they don't, decide to Gretzky it up and move a generational player out of Edmonton.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they are so the linchpins of Edmonton that the Edmonton Oilers go as Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl go now, and they don't seem to get burnt out.
Yeah.
Like the Edmonton Oilers suffer from their lack of secondary scoring, but that is not that's not the fault of Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. They are doing everything they can each and every game to win this team games. And sometimes they get by just on the talent of those two alone.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous in this day and age. Like you need depth to be a successful franchise, and they will probably I don't know where they're sitting in the standings right now.
They're a bubble.
Actually.
They're in right now, but in like the 3, 4, 5 spot currently.
And they'll probably make the playoffs.
Yep.
Based on that.
The question for me, and it stands to what I said at the start of the season too, has been the goaltending, and they didn't address it. They still rolling out Smith and Koskinen. Calgary did make improvements in that area with Markstrom, who's looked great in the past couple games for the Calgary Flames. But you're right. Depth scoring has been a problem. I don't know if you saw James Neal placed on waivers this weekend.
I didn't see that. Wow.
But with Puljujärvi, with Yamamoto, with Cassian.
Wait, does that mean Calgary won that trade?
Maybe.
Whoa.
Because Luch is. I don't know if he was claimed. I should follow up, but. Maybe
I didn't see that one coming.
Maybe that was a surprise to me as well. But you're right. I can't remember who it was. I got in a heated argument this weekend with someone who said that Draisaitl was an average player. But I think to defend them, because they're not here to defend themselves, I think they were more so speaking from an excitability standpoint. Like when you're watching an Oilers game, your eyes are immediately drawn to 97 because he's absolutely electric. Every time he's on the ice,
he's incomparable.
Something magical happens.
Yeah.
Draisaitl, maybe not as flashy or sexy, but he's
still fun to watch.
You could argue he's the second best player in the league.
Yeah.
You could argue he's the best player in the league.
Yeah.
They are 1A, 1B at certain points.
Well, and that's the amazing thing. Like it would be a very lazy argument to say that Leon Draisaitl is benefiting from the skill of Connor McDavid, because like I think even without Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl would be putting up major points.
Oh, yeah.
He is that good, and he has smart and that skilled a hockey player. And he doesn't have the skill set that Connor McDavid has. He's not a guy who can just go end to end, just turn, Norris Trophy winning defenseman inside out,
right,
and score these highlight reel goals. He's not going to make plays like that. But he's still going to put up. He's still won an Art Ross trophy already.
Just last year.
I mean, like, and you're competing with your own teammate there. Like, to beat Connor McDavid in points, whether you're on his team or not on his team, is a feat on its own. And to try and discredit that is it's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and so Mitch Marner sliding in at third right now, but still 4 points back of Draisaitl, 6 points back of McDavid. So they've already created a bubble just amongst the two of them.
Yeah.
But I think
honestly, that would be like calling, in his prime, and not to say that he's over the hill or anything now, but that would be like calling Evgeny Malkin an average player.
Right.
Because he was, behind Sidney Crosby, another generational player, which is just insane.
It's not true. And they have the benefit, too, of playing together. So on special units, so on the power play, in abbreviated overtime periods when you've only got 3 players on the ice, these two are playing together. So how many times have we seen, even if they're not the ones with a goal, you'll see one of them with the primary, one of them with the secondary.
Yeah.
Or if one of them scores, the other is either getting a primary or a secondary.
Yeah.
Which only makes their case for being the top 2 players even better. Marner, obviously more of a pass first guy. He's a playmaker by trade. And, he has been on the receiving end of some Matthews passes of late, which have been really nice, highlight reel worthy. But he doesn't have the same playmaking ability as someone like Marner. So he might lose a little bit of points there, because between McDavid and Draisaitl, they can truly do it all.
Right. Is this friend of yours a Leafs fan?
No, I think a Flames fan, so maybe there's a little bit of
Either one, I was like that would explain
I was quite insulted, and I'm not even a huge Oilers fan, but I love watching them. All right, so we'll stick with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Is this a year that they finish atop the entire league by season's end, regular season?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
I mean, this is the season that analysts predicted for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They, again, more of these grandiose statements about the Toronto Maple Leafs are the most skilled team in the North Division. It is theirs for the taking. They're showing that right now. Like they're winning games that they should win. They're even winning games that they shouldn't win. They're getting great goaltending from Freddie Anderson. Their defense is proving now with the offseason acquisitions of TJ Brody.
Yep.
Was there another pickup they made there?
Not on the blue line, but they brought in Bogosian, and
right.
Simmons, who are not easy to play against.
Yeah.
Not necessarily on the blue line.
But their defense is already showing
the best it's
that
looked.
It's the best it's looked, in the last 5 years at least.
Definitely.
They are a much improved team. They're a much more well-rounded team than they were even just last year. And they're proving that they're willing to play for Sheldon Keefe, and he knows how to utilize this team. They're absolutely firing on all cylinders. They're definitely benefiting from this new alignment with the North Division. So if the Leafs were going to finish atop the entire league, this is absolutely the year it's going to happen.
Yep. No, I totally agree with that sentiment. Between the additions of Simmons, Bogosian, Brody, they're not as easy to play against as they were in previous years. They're marrying that with all of their skill, speed, elite talent on the front end. Nice to see Marner and Matthews getting more minutes together on the top line. They were long separated, with Marner playing more with Tavares. So now Tavares has sort of slid into the second center option, which is a very good second line center. And then Jumbo Joe bringing that veteran leadership, but also getting top line minutes and proving he belongs on that top line. I think when Simmons is healthy again, when Jack Campbell is healthy again, and they can lean on a more proven backup goaltender, I agree that this is probably the year, certainly to win the North. But might end up finishing atop the entire league in points by season's end. One
other player that I want to point out as a difference maker so far in my eyes for the Toronto Maple Leafs is Ilya Mikheyev.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at his stats right now, he's only got 4 points. He's only scored 1 goal, 3 assists. Certainly nothing that jumps off the page about that. But he is proving I still think he's taken such a step forward to last year's rookie season. They signed him out of the KHL. He put up 23 points in 39 games. There was a lot to be excited about him last year. And that you thought that he could probably build on that offensively, but where he's built is defensively. He is an absolute demon killing penalties for the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's been some shifts, some penalty kills where the other 3 guys on the ice for the Leafs haven't really had to do anything.
Yeah.
They've just kind of had to sit back, and Ilya Mikheyev just harasses the puck character. I think his skating has improved since last year. Of course, he had that his wrist
laceration. It was really bad. He missed months.
Yeah, and they missed him.
Yeah,
I think they missed him probably more than they expected to. But he's back this year, and I gotta say, I think he looks really, really good.
Helps sort of absorb the losses of probably more so someone like Kapanen rather than Johnson, because Kapanen would give them the penalty kill time, and was more of a depth forward type player for the Leafs. So helps absorb those losses a little bit more. But I'd say more of a comparable would be Kapanen, because he did get minutes on the penalty kill.
Good call.
All right, and then our last fact or fiction. Jim Benning is fired before the end of the season.
I want to say no, because I feel like I don't think it's his fault that the Vancouver Canucks are under-delivering.
Right.
I think he made really good moves in the offseason. I think they've suffered more from losing Chris Tanev than they thought they would.
Right. Yeah.
And obviously we're not privy to conversations that happen off the ice between agents and general managers, but I almost got the sense that it was a surprise to the Vancouver Canucks when Chris Tanev decided to head elsewhere. Because it kind of didn't really seem like they were prepared for that.
Right.
And prepared for how to fill those minutes. Like he's a top 4 guy for them, and like was maybe a top 2 guy last year with the young defenseman Quinn Hughes there.
Yep. Who has looked really good.
And he's looked really good as well. This is still a young team though.
Yep.
The fact that they, look surprised as many people as they did in the play-in and then playoff rounds last year, but in the previous playoffs, I think that should have been more of a surprise than what was expected of that team, and I think for the most part it was. But you bring that excitement and that expectation into this season, and it's kind of easy to understand why there would be a sense of disappointment. Obviously, they're not winning games like they expected to, or like they hoped they would this year. But again, it's a different kind of year. It's a tough situation with that North Division, and the Vancouver Canucks still have the toughest schedule and demands of any other franchise with the time zone difference.
Yep.
It's again a different situation. They're probably not quite as affected by jet lag as they would be in previous years. But all of those factors combined, plus the fact that this is still the core of this team is still very, very young. Mm-hmm. And I think that its best days are still very much ahead of it. I feel like it would be very premature.
Yep. So I'm going to say no as well. Not off to the start that they would have wanted. Minus 13, second to only the aforementioned Senators on minus 30 goal differential in the North Division, sitting in 6 at a 7 right now. But really, they're 3 points out of a playoff berth.
Yeah.
In a really tight, anything can happen North Division. You figure the Maple Leafs and the Canadiens at this point will probably be there. Certainly the Maple Leafs. I think, and you're right. People did sort of expect them to take a step back with the departures of Tanev and most certainly
Tyler Toffoli.
Jacob Markstrom, who has had a really good run in Calgary, and they were going to feel that a little bit. Holtby comes in, struggled a little bit so far. But they're still working out their blue line. Some really good starts from Besser and Hughes. Miller, not quite the same level of production that we saw last year.
And Elias Pettersson has not quite had the start that I think they expected of him. And, it's you would have almost expected that last year. Like traditionally, the sophomore year is the year when a potential superstar has a bit of a slump. Yeah. But he had a great sophomore season. Oh, yeah. So maybe it just took an extra year for Elias Pettersson to kind of, hit a bit of a rut. Yeah. But I mean, he's an absolute elite skill in this league. And I would be surprised. Maybe not this year, but next year, I think you're going to see the Vancouver Canucks turn around. Yeah.
They've got the right pieces in place, the right young pieces. If they're out of the mix this year, I don't think they'll be out of the mix for long. Yeah. And certainly the future still very bright in British Columbia.
Absolutely. All right. So there you go. Austin Matthews, not the greatest Maple Leaf of all time yet. May happen yet. Jim Benning, it'd be premature to fire him, according to Mike and I. No one else other than an Edmonton Oiler will win the Art Ross Trophy, and it's not going to be James Neal either. And Austin Matthews will more than likely win a Rocket Richard Trophy this year. So we'll take a break and leave you with your own thoughts on that. You are listening to Cabin Sports Radio, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward.
The Cabin Sports Radio Podcast, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward.
Cabin Sports Radio, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. Check out sportnorth.com for everything regarding sport in the North, including the Kids Sport NWT program. Always worth your time and consideration, and making a donation to Kids Sport NWT. All proceeds stay in the North.
All right, Lecter. 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady has been trending once again on the Twitterverse and beyond this week. Not about him cementing his status as the greatest of all time when it comes to...
in a certain way.
Well, yeah, for partying. Making the rounds this week. Some now famous, infamous videos surfacing, depending on how you look at it. I think it's pretty hilarious. They, of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneers had their championship parade. Second time now that we've seen a boat parade in Tampa in the last calendar year, which looks like a lot of fun. Just get on the jet skis, get on the big boats or whatever you got, sailboat, join the team, go down the canal. So the first funny clip, and we'll get to it in a little bit more detail in a bit, and some people still not sitting well with them, involved him throwing the Vince Lombardi. He's already got 7.
Another completion.
Yeah, that's right.
Man, the guy's completion percentage, just ridiculous.
Throwing a Vince Lombardi trophy, the Vince Lombardi trophy, from one boat to another. I think it was Gronk's boat. He was trying to connect one more time with the all-time great tight end Rob Gronkowski,
sealing that legendary status.
Well, they connected for 2 more in Super Bowl 55.
Yeah.
So why not? One more pass. The second video, and you can probably relate to this too. If you've been on a boat, if you've been on the water all day,
right,
as soon as you get back to land, regardless of if you've had any adult beverages, it can be a little unsettling because you still sort of your body's trying to compensate for the waves that are no longer there. You're on even ground right now. There's a video of Tom being supported by another person, basically borderline holding him up when he's walking through waving at fans and being escorted from the boat area. And then, so someone shared...
Not the best look.
No, but funny.
Really funny.
This guy is at the top of his game. Work hard, play hard. He's at the top.
And you know what? There's something about a guy who has just, for so many years, had this, squeaky clean image.
Yes.
Letting loose.
Right?
You know what? After your 7th Super Bowl... If you can't let loose and get a little white girl wasted after that, when is the time for Tom Brady to let loose?
I don't know if you saw the interview with Rob Gronkowski. It was with one of the late night TV show hosts. I want to say, I can't remember off the top of my head. Anyways, he was asked what partying with Tom Brady's like, and Rob said, "Well, I came into the league at 20.
Yeah.
By that time, he was already 32,
right,
with a wife and kids." This guy wasn't going to party with me.
Right.
We're not going out to nightclubs
They weren't
together.
on the same level.
No, he's at home with his young family. And
Rob Gronkowski was Rob Gronkowski.
Right. Getting full gronked. So he probably hasn't... We haven't seen... You're right. We haven't seen this side of him.
Right.
Because he's just, to this point, been the ultimate professional.
Yeah.
Goes out and gets W's.
Well, you try and infer any fun in your life, and you just look across the room. Bill Belichick probably just shoots a glare.
Oh, yeah.
No fun.
No fun.
We're here to play football.
Yeah.
That's it.
So this is
let loose.
Vacation Tom.
Yeah.
Tampa
Bay Tom.
Tampa Bay, as LeBron James tweeted. Let the guy live. Just have some fun.
That's right.
He's the GOAT.
Yeah. He'll be back to prim and proper, maybe in a few days.
He even looked, he was sharply dressed.
Yeah.
You could tell. He had the glasses on, so it's not like we could see, his glass eyes or anything like
God,
that. No, that would have been another story. He's just having some fun.
Yeah. Someone was not enjoying the Lombardi Trophy proceedings. Let's listen into one of the descendants of the creator of the Lombardi Trophy.
It takes a lot of work, a lot of hard work, a lot of hours go into it. It just really upset me that this trophy was disgraced and disrespected by being thrown as if it was a real football. I didn't sleep for the past 2 nights because of this. I was that upset because I know the passion that goes into this trophy and how my dad and all his fellow silversmiths are so proud to make this. I personally would like an apology, not just to me and my family and the other silversmiths, but to the fans.
That was the voice of Lorraine Gross, who had sleepless nights.
Yes.
Due to
2 sleepless nights.
Tom Brady. I don't even know if it was the fact that that he threw the Lombardi trophy, but he threw it like a rugby player.
Yeah.
That's just insulting. This is football.
Yeah.
Tom, you know this.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Underhanded, two-handed throw. No.
I mean, they made the catch regardless.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
I mean, if you want to call it a shovel pass, I guess. But, clearly Lorraine not so much enjoying that. But you know what? You can't please them all.
No.
And Tom Brady has had an illustrious career of upsetting folks who mainly weren't New England Patriots fans.
Yeah.
And in this case, not Tampa Bay Buccaneheers fans. Maybe she's a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Maybe.
And that was just salt in the wound.
Yeah. I wonder how heavy that trophy is. I mean, if there's a chance for that to not hit the bow, that's going to submerge real quick. And we don't know how deep it was there. That would have been there would have been a pretty immediate diving excursion booked to go and retrieve it. But hey, if you're going to have anyone throw that pass, why not be the greatest quarterback of all time?
It's fine, Lorraine. That was going to be a completion. I feel like someone needs to point her to some of the historical stories of the Stanley Cup and some of the adventures that trophy's been through. And be like, you know what? It'll be okay, Lorraine. Right. The silversmiths will. We can all.
I don't think we even want to know. Like the top. No, we don't even want to know what happened to
Maybe
some
we'll
of those
save
trophies.
That for next week.
Yeah.
On Cabin Sports Radio.
Don't want to know.
Yeah, with that in mind, we'll wrap it up here. Just wanted to leave you with a little bit of extra audio. Something among the many things that are different about this year's NHL season is the fact that there are no fans in the stands. You don't have that natural crowd noise. They're doing their best to pipe that crowd noise in there and make it feel like any other year, but it doesn't stand out the way it would have previously. And so you're hearing things that you don't normally hear at an NHL game. And I just wanted to send a particular shout out to the Montreal Canadiens. Their victory over the Toronto Maple Leafs this past weekend, 2-1 victory. Their woo game is on point. And we will talk to you next week on Cabin Sports Radio.
Gallagher, first man to it. Got it to Dino in front. Scores! Canadians get even on a goal by Tyler Toffoli.
Leafs on the quick wraparound, collapsing towards the puck, and it's Gallagher who makes the play, and then Dano knows that on the offside, he's got a man driving to the net, Toffoli.
Gallagher bumped there, and the Leafs nearly had it. It hopped over the stick of Riley, kicked in by Petrie. In front, scores! Brendan Gallagher got the loose puck in front and buries it, and the Canadians have the lead.
Let's see the deflection there. I think that is going to be a challengeable high stick. It's got to be up and over his shoulder. And let's have a look. Petrie does a great job of controlling the rolling puck, just getting it there. Gallagher knocks it down, grabs the rebound, and let's see what Sheldon Keefe ends up seeing.